Hey, have you ever said yes when you really wanted to say no?
Oh, way too many times.
Right? Maybe someone asks you for a favor, or invites you somewhere, or wants your help. And even though you're tired, busy, or just not comfortable, you still say yes.
And then later, you regret it.
Exactly. You feel stressed, annoyed, maybe even a little angry at yourself.
If that sounds familiar, you're definitely not alone.
So today, we're talking about something really important: how to say no politely in English.
Yeah, not coldly, not awkwardly, not in a way that makes you panic.
By the end of this episode, you'll have real English phrases you can actually use to say no politely, kindly, and confidently.
So, no more awkward silence.
No more fake yes.
And hopefully, no more saying sorry for 3 minutes and then still doing the thing you didn't want to do.
Exactly. So let's get into it. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Learn English Buddy, the podcast where you improve your English by listening to real, warm, natural conversations.
I'm Daniel.
And I'm Emma.
And wherever you're listening today, at home, on the bus, on a walk, maybe while doing chores, we're really glad you're here.
We really are. And Daniel, this topic today feels very personal.
It really does. I should probably confess something right at the beginning.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
I'm actually really bad at saying no.
Same.
I always want to be helpful. I want people to like me. I don't want anyone to feel bad. So a lot of the time, I just say yes.
Yeah, same here. And sometimes saying yes feels easier in the moment.
Exactly. Easier now, harder later.
That is such a good way to say it.
Last week, I said yes to 3 things I really did not want to do.
3?
3.
Okay, now I need details.
First, a colleague asked me to help with a report when I was already busy with my own work.
Mm-hmm.
Then my neighbor asked me to water his plants every day for 2 weeks.
Every day?
Every single day.
That is a lot of trust and a lot of plants.
Exactly. And then a friend asked me to help move furniture on Saturday morning.
Oh no.
Yeah, by Sunday, I was exhausted.
I believe that.
And the worst part was, I felt kind of irritated.
Not because they asked you.
Right, because I said yes when I wanted to say no.
And that's exactly why this topic matters so much. Because saying no is not rude.
It's honest.
Yes. And honestly, a kind no is much better than a stressed yes.
Wow, a kind no is better than a stressed yes.
It's true.
I want to put that on a wall somewhere.
Please do.
So let's start with the big question. Why is saying no so hard, especially in English?
I think there are 2 main reasons. First, we don't want to hurt people's feelings.
Yeah, we don't want to sound mean.
Exactly. And second, a lot of English learners only know one version of no, just the word no.
Which can sound very strong.
Very strong, very direct, sometimes even a little cold.
So then people think, well, I don't want to sound rude, so I guess I'll just say yes.
Right. But the good news is, English actually has a lot of softer, kinder ways to say no.
And today we're going to walk through some of the best ones.
Okay, so let's start with the most basic situation. Someone asks you to do something and you simply can't do it. What's a good phrase?
The simplest one is, I'm sorry, I can't.
Simple, clear, useful.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't is short, natural, and polite. You don't need a huge explanation.
That's important.
It really is. A lot of people feel like they need to explain everything when they say no.
Yes, they start talking and talking and talking.
Right. I'm so sorry. I really want to help, but today I have this thing, and then tomorrow I have another thing, and next week is complicated, and maybe if the weather changes.
Exactly. Suddenly, the no becomes a whole novel.
And then it sounds nervous instead of clear.
So if you want, you can add a small reason, just a small one.
Right, like, I'm sorry, I can't. I already have plans.
Or, I'm sorry, I can't. I'm not feeling well today.
Or even, I'm sorry, I can't take that on right now.
That one's really useful too.
The key is, simple is okay.
Yes, you do not need a dramatic speech,
Unless you secretly want one.
which sometimes I do.
Fair enough.
Okay, what's another really good phrase?
I love this one. I wish I could, but
Oh, that's such a warm phrase.
it is. For example, I wish I could, but I already have plans.
Or, I wish I could help, but I don't have time this week.
What I like about that phrase is that it shows goodwill.
Yes, it says, I care. I'm not rejecting you. I just can't do this.
Exactly. It's soft, but still clear.
Honestly, it feels like a warm hug and a closed door.
That is weirdly accurate
Thank you.
and a little poetic.
I try.
Another very useful phrase, especially for work, is I'm afraid I won't be able to.
Yeah, that's a great one for professional situations.
For example, I'm afraid I won't be able to join the meeting on Friday.
Or, I'm afraid I won't be able to finish that by tomorrow.
This one sounds a little more formal.
But in a good way. It sounds calm, respectful, professional.
Exactly, especially in emails.
Yes, if you work in English, this phrase is gold.
And honestly, for some people, saying no in writing is easier than saying it face to face.
Oh, definitely. When someone is standing right in front of me, sometimes my brain forgets every English phrase I've ever learned.
The panic, yes.
The panic, yes.
Very real.
Which is why practice matters so much. If you say these phrases out loud a few times, they feel more natural when you actually need them.
Yeah, you can say them in the mirror. You can say them while walking around your house. You can even say them in your head before a meeting.
Totally, because when the phrase feels familiar, it comes out much more easily.
Okay, let's talk about a very common situation. A friend invites you somewhere, and you don't want to go.
Oh, this is too real.
I know.
Last month, a friend invited me to a party, and I was exhausted. I really didn't want to go.
So what did you do?
I went.
Of course you did.
I know.
And how was it?
Honestly, I stayed for like 30 minutes, felt tired the whole time, and then left early.
So you went and still felt bad.
Exactly.
Okay, so in that kind of situation, one great phrase is, thank you so much for inviting me, but I won't be able to make it.
I really like that one.
Me too. You start with appreciation.
Right. You're saying thank you first. You're showing that the invitation means something.
And then you gently say no.
Another good one is, that sounds really lovely, but I already have something planned.
Yeah, that's nice because you're saying the event sounds good.
Exactly. You're not saying, I don't want to come. You're saying, it sounds great, but I can't.
And that helps protect the relationship.
Yes, because a lot of the time, people don't just hear no, they hear rejection.
That's such an important point.
These phrases help communicate, I like you, I appreciate you, I'm just not available.
Right. The relationship stays warm.
Okay, now let's move into a slightly harder kind of no.
The kind where you don't just feel busy, you feel uncomfortable.
Exactly. Like when someone asks you for something that really isn't good for you,
Maybe a colleague wants you to work on your day off.
or someone asks to borrow money.
Or someone wants a favor that crosses your personal boundary.
In those situations, one very useful phrase is, I need to say no this time.
Yeah, that one is direct, but still calm.
It doesn't sound angry. It doesn't sound dramatic. It's just clear.
And sometimes that kind of clarity is really important.
Another helpful phrase, especially for money or support, is, I'm not really in a position to help with that right now.
That is such a smooth phrase.
It really is.
Because it doesn't sound harsh.
No, not at all. It just sounds honest and respectful.
And sometimes being polite doesn't mean making a perfect excuse.
Yes, sometimes it just means being clear without being cruel.
That's really the heart of this whole episode.
It is.
Okay, let's talk about one of the hardest situations ever.
Uh-oh.
Someone asks you for something, you say no, and then they keep pushing.
Oh, yes.
Please? Just this once. Come on, it's not a big deal.
Yeah, that's where a lot of people break.
Totally. That's where the pressure yes happens.
The pressure yes is dangerous
Very dangerous.
because now you're not saying yes because you want to. You're saying yes because you're uncomfortable.
Exactly. And it also teaches the other person that if they push you enough, your no will disappear.
Which is not a good pattern.
So in that moment, you can say, I understand you need help, but my answer is still no.
That is such a strong phrase.
Yeah. Calm, firm, respectful.
You're not fighting. You're not explaining for 10 minutes. You're just holding your boundary.
And honestly, the first time you do that, it can feel scary.
Very scary.
But like anything in English, and honestly, like anything in life, it gets easier with practice.
Absolutely.
Okay, I want to do something fun.
I'm listening.
Let's play a little practice game.
Oh, I love this already.
I'll give you a situation and you give me a polite no.
Okay, let's go.
Your friend says, can you help me paint my house this weekend?
I'd say, I wish I could help, but I already have plans this weekend.
Nice.
And maybe, if I really want to be helpful, I could add, maybe I can help another time.
Perfect. That's warm, clear, and realistic.
Thank you.
Okay, next one. Your boss emails you. Can you finish this extra report by tomorrow morning?
I'd say, I'm afraid I won't be able to finish it by tomorrow, but I can have it ready by Thursday.
Excellent.
That feels professional.
Very professional.
Also, much better than saying yes and then crying later.
Much better.
Okay, next.
Someone at a party that you barely know says, can I have your phone number?
Ooh, okay. I'd say, I appreciate you asking, but I prefer not to share my number.
That is perfect.
Yeah, I prefer not to is such a useful phrase.
It really is. Very polite, very firm. No big apology, no messy explanation.
Just clear.
Exactly.
And honestly, I think a lot of English learners need to hear this. You do not always have to say sorry when you say no.
That's a really good point.
Sometimes sorry is fine, but sometimes I prefer not to is actually stronger and healthier.
Especially when it's about your comfort or your boundaries.
Exactly.
And if you're listening right now, here's a little challenge for you.
Ooh, yes.
Pick one polite no phrase from this episode and make your own example sentence with it.
For example, I wish I could, but I have plans.
Or, I'm sorry, I can't this time.
Or, I prefer not to.
Just one sentence. That's enough.
Small practice is still real practice.
Always.
Okay, I want to talk about one more thing because I think this is a big one.
Guilt?
Yes, the guilt after saying no.
Oh, yeah.
Even when you know it was the right decision, part of you still thinks, was I rude? Should I have said yes? Did I disappoint them?
I know that feeling so well.
Same.
I said no to a coffee invitation recently because I was buried in work. And for the rest of the day, I kept thinking about it.
Really?
Always.
Okay, I want to talk about one more thing because I think this is a big one.
Guilt?
Yes, the guilt after saying no.
Oh, yeah.
Even when you know it was the right decision, part of you still thinks, was I rude? Should I have said yes? Did I disappoint them?
I know that feeling so well.
Same.
I said no to a coffee invitation recently because I was buried in work. And for the rest of the day, I kept thinking about it.
Really?
Yeah. I kept wondering if I sounded cold.
That second guessing is so common.
So, what do we do with that feeling?
I think the most helpful thing to remember is this. When you say no to one thing, you're often saying yes to something else.
Say that again.
When you say no to one thing, you're saying yes to something else.
That's really good.
If you say no to an invitation, maybe you're saying yes to rest.
If you say no to extra work, maybe you're saying yes to your health.
If you say no to something that makes you uncomfortable, you're saying yes to your peace.
Wow,
And that matters.
it really does. Because protecting your time, your energy, your comfort, that's not selfish.
No, it's healthy.
And honestly, people who care about you will usually understand.
Yes, a good friend will understand. A respectful colleague will understand.
And if someone gets angry because you said no politely,
That tells you something about them, not about you.
that is so important.
I think learning English is also connected to learning confidence.
Totally.
Because when you have the words, you feel stronger.
And when you feel stronger, you use the words.
Exactly. It becomes a cycle.
A really good cycle.
And saying no is part of becoming a more confident English speaker.
Yes, because confidence in English is not just being able to say what people want to hear.
It's being able to express what you really mean.
That is such a good way to put it.
Thank you.
So let's do a quick recap of the phrases we covered today.
Yes, let's make a nice little list.
First, I'm sorry, I can't.
Simple, short, clear.
Then, I wish I could, but
Warm and gentle.
then, I'm afraid I won't be able to.
Great for work, emails, and more formal situations.
Then, thank you so much for inviting me, but I won't be able to make it.
Perfect for social invitations.
And, that sounds really lovely, but I already have something planned.
Friendly and warm.
Then, for stronger moments, I need to say no this time.
Calm, honest, direct.
And, I'm not really in a position to help with that right now.
Very useful for sensitive situations.
Then, I understand you need help, but my answer is still no.
That's your phrase for pressure.
And finally, I prefer not to.
Short, polite, firm, beautiful.
And the good thing is, you do not need to memorize all of them today.
Not at all. Just choose 2 or 3 that feel natural to you.
Practice those first.
Make them yours.
Use them in your own examples.
Maybe even say them out loud a few times after this episode.
Yeah, a little practice every day really does make a difference.
Before we finish, I want to share one last tip.
Go for it.
If you feel nervous when someone asks you for something, don't answer too fast.
Ah, yes, that's good.
Pause.
Just pause.
Take 1 breath, maybe 2.
And in that little moment, ask yourself, do I actually want to say yes?
Or am I just afraid to say no?
That pause is powerful.
It really is, because it gives your brain time to choose instead of just react.
And sometimes, in that pause, the right words come to you.
Exactly. I'm sorry, I can't. I wish I could. I prefer not to.
The words are there. You just need a second to find them.
I love that.
The pause is not awkward.
No, the pause is wisdom.
Wow. The pause is wisdom.
It is.
I feel like you came into this episode with quotes prepared.
I didn't. They just show up.
Very impressive.
Thank you. Tea helps.
Tea helps everything.
Honestly, it really does.
Well, I think that brings us to the end of today's episode.
Already?
I know. It went fast.
It really did. But I love this topic because it's not just about English, it's about life.
Yeah, it's about confidence, honesty, and taking care of yourself.
And hopefully now, saying no in English feels a little easier
A little softer, a little more natural.
and a lot less scary.
We hope so.
And if this episode helped you, keep practicing with us.
You can even think about one real situation in your life right now where one of these phrases could help.
That's a great idea.
Start with real life. That's where language becomes powerful.
Exactly.
And of course, thank you so much for spending this time with us today.
We're really happy you're here.
We'll be back with another episode soon.
Until then, remember, no is not a bad word.
It can actually be a kind word.
A clear word.
An honest word.
So take care of yourself
Be kind.
and be brave enough to say what you really mean.
Bye, everyone.
See you next time.